Okay, so here we are again. It's been a while. There's been two major updates, I think. And frankly, I don't even know if the old campaign is still even playable with some of the major rehauls they've done to the system. So, we're going to start up a new one. And this one will have more beards. Because there is a brand new fellow out.
Master Rune Lord of Caracastle!
Yeah, crash bang boom. Thoric Ironbrow, who is a dwarf. He's short, he's stunty. Look at those biceps. Look at that beard. It's so floofy and magnificent. And yes, he's riding on an anvil that's being carried around by like 4 guys. It's nuts. But yeah, this whole faction is pretty weird. They do quite a bit of stuff involving making custom weapons and armor for themselves. They have a whole mechanic and forge set up for it. They have no cavalry whatsoever. The entire army has like 0 mobility. So that's just something that you have to work around. You gotta use ranged weapons, you gotta use artillery, you gotta use their ridiculously heavy infantry, but you're not gonna be able to outrun anything. Let's go. Lost long ago to the hazy fog of time, the once bounteous hold of Karak Zorn had become little more than legend. Yet where numerous bold adventurers have failed, Thoric Ironbrow alone has succeeded. The lost hold has been found. It is proof, the Master Runelord believes, that even this place, which the dwarfs have long abandoned hope of retaking, is not beyond their reach. No hold or ancestral artifact will lie undiscovered, for Thoric seeks to restore stuff.
Your workshop once again, Master Runelord. Contact has finally been made with the lost Dowie of Karakzon, who stand ready to lend their aid to your great cause. The nearby peaks are beset with Groby, who must be ousted to clear the safest passage north through the mountains. For the relics of the old dwarf empire lie beyond, scattered throughout the world. Once the squatters have been removed, it would be wise to re-establish contact with your home of Karakazul, where King Khazanor has ever sought your counsel. A formal accord with him will be invaluable in the trials ahead. The artifacts you seek sit in fallen holds, or looted by men, greenskins, and other creatures, living and dead. By the cold steel of Clad Brakak, take them back, or use diplomacy to gain access to them. You have made it your personal responsibility to help reclaim the dwarf empire of old Thoric Ironbrow, and your efforts may yet herald a new golden age. In time, none shall dare defy the ancient might of the Dowie.
Okay. So we can dismiss the advisor. How they play Ironbrow's expedition is Thoric Ironbrow's personal quest to seek out lost artifacts of the dwarf's golden age. Presumably that would be all these things with the spinning letters around them. So that just gives us a direction to march our murder party in. By collecting the ancient items recorded in the Book of Grudges, you can return them to the artifact vault and reforge them to receive their powerful benefits. I think this is an addition to a usual forging mechanic. You have, like, your own special tab to do his super special stuff in addition to all of the normal items that you can make. Yeah, experts in binding the winds of magic to stone or metal. Dwarves can use oath gold, just like a special resource. in conjunction with tradable resources, which you also have to find around the map, to make magical weapons, armor, talismans, and enchanted items to improve their strength in battle. So instead of just finding crap and giving it to people, you can be like, oh, I want that specific thing, and make it. And grudges. Dwarves and their grudges. Dwarves maintain a record of all grievances committed against them in the Damaz Kron, their Book of Grudges. Losses suffered by dwarf factions are recorded so that they may be avenged later. Anytime somebody kicks your ass, it makes a record of it, and makes the campaign more difficult until you kick their ass back harder. Previous times I've done this, it's actually been very difficult to work with, because, if a very quick faction raids you, right at the very edge of your territory, and then, goes and derps off out to sea or something, that's been written down and remembered, and, you will have to raise an entire army that can support itself out there to go hunt down some piddly little raiders before that grudge, ruins your entire economy. Yeah, this is an entire race of crusty old farts who want people to get off their lawn. But even after they get off their lawn, they have to chase them down the street, which is very difficult because dwarves have stunty little legs. And there is the underway mechanic. This is actually pretty darn neat. Instead of just being able to walk your guys around, you can teleport them on the battle map. They just disappear from one area and appear in another. And that allows you to, go directly through mountains and lakes and dense forests that you can't otherwise get through. There's a chance of getting, intercepted while you're doing this, so you can't move through bad guys as well, because there's a decent chance that they will ambush you while you're in the middle of doing this teleport move. And if you lose that fight, the general idea is that you're using massive underground tunnels that the dwarves made, thousands of years ago. And the idea is that if you get beaten while you're down there, your army gets routed and disbanded, and they all get lost in these tunnels, and they're unable to properly group up. So you can teleport, but the downside is if you are caught and beaten, the entire army gets destroyed. So either only do it when it's safe, or only do it when you're pretty sure you can kick everybody's ass. Yeah, we'll go through these. At some point, this is basically, you get a new grudge, a new mission for every single big objective for this guy's campaign. And I'm just gonna bounce through all of those because that's an awful lot of reading. And then there's this generic thing that every single faction gets that's just expand your empire. If Thoric hopes to succeed in restoring the lost glory of the dwarfs, he must first gain a sure foothold in the surrounding lands. By the valor and might of those under his command, the Dowie will march onward to victory. There's quite a few dwarf-looking words. They like to call themselves Dowie. Carrack seems to mean city. Or capital, maybe. Okay, so, who do we have? We have our leader guy. And we'll take a look at him. Has 130 armor. I think in our last campaign, Carl had 90. You do get diminishing returns from it, though. 90 is a pretty darn good armor rating, but the jump from 90 to 130 is good, but still not that great. About that point, they're going to be sending armor. You're going to be afraid of armor-piercing damage anyway. Leadership is 85, which is really good, but actually I feel kind of low for a dwarf. Dwarves have extremely high leadership and extremely high durability. They're a pain in the ass to kill. Of course, speed of 32. I'm pretty sure even regular Empire footmen were at 36 or something. And Thoric is fast for a dwarf. They're super slow. 45, 45 for melee attack and defense, which is decent. 430 weapon strength. That's not the lowest it could possibly be, but it's not great. However, most of it is armor piercing, so whatever you send him at, he will be able to fight. You also need to remember he has magic attacks, so that can play into resistances a little bit. And he's got like no charge bonus, so there's no use really running him into things. Yeah, old ways are best. So everybody in his army gets to be a little bit like him. They get extra armor, they get a little bit of extra armor piercing. It's a minor buff, but, you know, everybody gets it for free, so that's pretty cool. And the old ways are best. This is the most grumpy old man of an entire race of grumpy old men. Thorak does not abide by new technology, using ancient techniques to lend his counsel and strong arm to the cause of the old dwarf empire. Basically, he gets bonuses to, like, their least technologically advanced stuff. Crossbows, catapults, ballista, and this is from a faction that has, like, flamethrowers and rocket launchers and helicopters. And then he has some other bonuses. And then we also have a hero. And what did we get for our random hero? Ancestral Blood Volea. So each of your characters will have, like, Ancestral Blood something or other. So, like, whatever family they're from, or, like, old god they're descended from, will give them, like, a particular set of bonuses. This one, I don't think is that great, since I don't think the AI tends to use enemy hero actions on us all that much, but he's got a bit of ward save. It's okay. And these guys use rune magic, which will just be way easier to show than really attempt to describe. It's basically... Yeah. The company that makes this has been going very far out of their way to make it, to state that the dwarf rune system is not magic. With the new update, it's got like a whole new system that basically uses all of the UI for the magic system from other factions. Some different mechanics and whatnot, but, like, it's functionally the same as magic. Which is good, because they need something like that in order to keep up and be balanced, really. And, well, is it functionally the same? No, it has its own mechanics, but it serves the same function, more or less. Yeah, and this guy does scouting, cleanse corruption, and damage walls. So I pretty well want to keep him, I think, with an army, where he will be blowing up walls so that we can get into places easier. Although as dwarves, we tend to have pretty good artillery. Don't necessarily need that, but scouting is pretty well only good while in an army, so you can find more and more weapons, which we'll probably melt down and make into our own stuff. Yeah, we will pop him in with Thorak. What kind of stances do we have? So we can use the underway, we can encamp, we can raid, we can ambush, and we can march. So we can do the teleportation thing, we can hole up and replenish, and like replenish our troops and not suffer any attrition. We can raid, which gives us some additional income when we're in enemy territory, but it makes us slightly more vulnerable to being attacked. We have ambush, where we can try to get the drop on people, but we're immobile. And we can march, which makes us move farther, but similar to the underway teleportation. If you're in forced march and you get attacked and lose, you're just euchred, the whole army's gone. Okay, what does our building tree look like? That helps out our middle tier infantry, so it's actually not that useful to get it right off the bat, I don't think, because we just don't have access to Longbeards. That's a gold mining pit. Then gives us some of our special resource, some tradable resources, and a shit ton of money. We just want that. Yeah. Okay. Let's get ourselves into a fight, shall we? So one thing that I'm going to have to remember to do is to put these runes on people correctly. So this is a rune of burning, and this is some special stuff that this guy starts out with because he's like a rune smith. It's what he does. All of them would have access to it, but I imagine this guy like starts out with some fancier, shinier stuff. So war machines bearing this rune will rain fire down on the enemy, setting them ablaze with volatile flame. Adds explosive damage. Sweet. And it's a little difficult to see, but when you have this, it's highlighted such that only this thing here can use it. Everything else gets grayed out. And this here, Rune of Stoicism. Dwarfs are stubborn. That's like one of their main friggin' traits, is stubbornness. Rune of Stoicism amplifies this, reminding them never to back down no matter what foe they face. Bonus versus large +8, and expert charge defense. And these can only be assigned to a non-character unit, so we can't give it to either of our big guys. So what kind of units do we have? We have some crossbows, some regular, like, line infantry with axes and shields. We have some mid-tier infantry with great weapons, so like big two-handed axes. And we have some hyper-elite infantry. That's basically like a super buffed-up version of the regular line infantry. However, they have, so 95 armor versus 135 armor, 85 leadership versus 70, 66 melee defense versus 40, no charge bonus. Oh, and these guys have blasting charges. Just basically, instead of like, hiding behind their shields waiting for guys to come after them, or setting pikes or throwing javelins or something, they throw like mining demolition charges at people as they charge in. It's entirely possible that like the first rank or so of guys that charge at us are just going to explode in their entirety. And this is like your standard, pretty easy initial fight. There's an enemy spellcaster. He's probably not going to have too much stuff he can do. Yeah, he's got actually a pretty good buff against us, as it increases melee attack to get past our high melee defense, and armor-piercing damage to get through our high armor, and a magic missile, like shoot a laser at somebody, make them explode. They've got some line infantry of their own, but 30 armor, 62 leadership, 25 melee defense, 28 attack, pretty low tier. And a set of their own archers. But they also have one of those enormous freaking spiders. Yeah. So I'm going to give this anti-large thing to these guys with their big two-handed axes. So they're going to be more likely to hit this thing, they're going to do more damage to it, and I think they're about the only thing I have that's actually armor-piercing that can effectively hurt it. So we're going to try to get it tied up, and then we're going to race these guys in around behind it or something to attempt to kill it off. And it causes both fear and terror, so if our guys do get rattled, they'll start to run away. Terror imbues... Basically, it makes guys rout, before they would normally route, and that's an interesting layout. Do I want to fight these guys on a choke point? I outnumber them. I don't think I do. And, like, regardless of how elite these guys are, like, a million units like this will just bounce off my iron breakers. But the enormous spider, like, doesn't matter how tough you are as an infantryman, you will take casualties to enormous spider. Okay, so it's kind of deserty. They're going to start in around there, so first thing we do, put all of our ranged units on guard mode. How far can you guys shoot? Okay, doesn't really matter anyway. We're not going to be able to effectively use that choke point. They're the ones who started closer to it. If we start there, we're going to be too low on a hill. And that's just not quite close. So yeah, if we start there with them, we should more or less be able to shoot at them effectively right from the start. Gonna tighten up these formations since the more square a formation is, the easier ranged units have in reforming and turning around. Heck, we'll throw these guys on defensive too. Okay, so he can use stuff more quickly. He can add armor, add melee attack and speed. And he can add melee attack and speed. Well, we only really have the one damage dealing unit, so I'm thinking... yeah. And we'll just put our two characters up front. Get these guys lined up. Those guys are on fire at will. And yeah, let's see what our explosive catapults can do. Say that went fairly well. Yeah, I'm going after their melee infantry, because I think that, other than the spider, which the catapults wouldn't be too great at damaging, those guys will be the primary issue. These guys don't have shields, my crossbows will just tear them apart. They're outnumbered, and they don't have the quality of my crossbows. Oh, well, the cheeky little buggers are going to shoot at my guys from out of range. I suppose that makes sense. Okay, and if you guys could... There go the blasting charges. Bippity 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 bip. Those guys should have a charge defense, so that thing won't get its bonuses. Honestly, yeah, you guys just go straight in, I guess. You guys might as well shoot at him. You guys keep shooting at them so that they keep running away. And you can put that on them. Yeah, we've got pretty good melee attack that's coming into effect on that thing. We're beating down their boss. Those guys have broken. You guys can just shoot the big guy now.
The Anvils might. Yes.
And that should about do it for the spider.
Age, wealth, and skill. For Ironbrow.
Yeah, 33, 32. And that guy's dead, yeah. So, like that. And yeah, we have the value amounts that we got from things. So those guys didn't kill anything, but since they spent most of their time hacking away at a high value spider, they would have got decent damage. We were able to spread out the damage that we took a little bit onto our characters and our front line, so that we should be able to heal effectively. These guys are the most efficient at taking damage, but if we had just let everything pile on them, it would have taken like 2 turns or something for them to get fully healed up. Now, hopefully it can happen in 1 turn. Okay, I don't know if this will work because we're not going to be in our own province for this to take effect. Basically, you can do all sorts of positives for whatever region you're in, but if you're in a bad guy's region, that doesn't do anything for you. So I think we take the money and the oath gold.
Your end is nigh. Seeking knowledge.
Oh, and he found himself a fancy weapon.
Lost glories reclaimed.
It's basically just an anti-greenskin weapon, which is okay. That's what we're fighting at the moment. Road of Speed, and we always go for Route Marcher. Uh, let's go for the Rune of Wrath and Ruin. Let's give that a try. Hello, kitty. Hello. Hey, buddy. The cat would like to say meow. Meow, meow, meow. Yes, you are a cat. And yeah, he can only damage walls on a settlement. That is a minor settlement. It does not have walls.
We honor the ancestors.
What kind of garrison does this have? Oh, shit. I mean, it's not a good garrison, but 7 and 5 is like 13? We've only got 9 units?
On our way.
Yeah, I guess we want to do ourselves some recruitment then. Hello, buddy. Yes. Ah, you are just like a dwarf. You know that, right? Yes. You are both fluffy and short. Yeah, you're a ginger one, just like he is, aren't you? Ah, you're also heavy. We're gonna get ourselves miners with blasting charges. They're like the weakest infantry we have, but they come with a single shot of those explosive charges to throw. So when they come derping in with their massive amounts of cheapo infantry, those guys should be able to clear them out quite effectively in one go.
One more grudge avenged.
I don't want this building in this settlement, because it's like a major settlement that can go up to higher tier buildings. I basically only want to build things that go up to at least tier 4 here, but we're going to hold on to it at least for the early game, because we need it to recruit.
Victory.
We also need to do some research.
Lost glories reclaimed.
It's not much income, but it's some. Okay, so that's that. What do we have going on in
Glory for
Zifforge? Okay, these are the super big artifacts. Weapons. Oh, some of these don't even require anything other than oath gold. Neat. Those will be a thing to go through at some point. See, I understand why this one is super cheap, because like dwarves already have excellent armor, and you get diminishing returns from it. So an extra 23 armor like isn't that useful to these guys. Enchanted items. It's Meow, hello. Okay, so these, I believe, are something that can be added directly to your characters, and they have like a little slot for it. So yeah, none of these require any extra resources, although there is a limit on the number of them you can have. And then these are banner runes. So these are more specialty ones that can be applied to units of yours, like the one that I put on those axe-wielding guys that I gave them the bonus versus large. Rune of Stoicism. I might get quite a bit of use out of something like that, as I think the only like real bonus versus large options we have are artillery and like some very funky infantry units that are just kind of difficult to use. And that's for recycling items. Okay, so they've added a bit more depth to this system, but nothing crazy.
One more grudge avenged.
Yes. So let's end the
Onward. Dowie from another hold arrived. 'Tis a great day. Agreed.
Oh, that's good. Ah, Lizard Man, Vampire Counts. Amazing how fast those turns go by. Ah, so this will be some lore about our buddy here. Thoric Ironbrow is a rune lord, like unto those of legend. In the best of his moods, he is fiercely irate, and a living terror to his apprentices in the weapon shops of Karak Azul, where he has ruled for centuries on end. A traditionalist in every sense, Thoric cannot abide new technology, and takes every opportunity to speak his mind on new inventions. Fortunately, he lends not just his counsels, but also his strong arm to Thorgrim Grudgebearer. Like his High King, Thoric too longs to reclaim the Dwarf Empire of old. But he also has a personal quest. He seeks lost relics of the ancient days. For this reason, Thoric is extremely active, and can be found aiding throngs from many different clans and holds. Of late, Thoric has been deep underground, buoying the dwarf battle lines and unleashing the fury of his Anvil of Doom upon the Skaven that fill the underhalls of Carrick Eight Peaks. He is not only helping the cause of King Belegar, but also searching for those sealed treasure vaults that have never yet been refound. Each new discovery of ancient rune artifacts helps keep the precious runecraft of his forefathers alive, and ensures that no further holds fall. Thoric can never be found without his Anvil of Doom, and his most able assistant, a long-suffering dwarf named Craggy. Most of the time, Craggy is a great aid to Thoric, but on occasion, his inexperience, he's only been smithing a century, causes issues. When Craggy is paying sufficient attention to his master's gruff commands, no living rune lord can match Thoric's prowess on the Anvil of Doom. With a resounding clang on his anvil, Thoric Ironbrow grounds enemy spells and smites those who would dare defy the growing might of the dwarfs. And I will say it just one more time. Well, no, I'll probably say it a whole bunch. Anvil of Doom. And this would be about those miners that I've just recruited. And yeah, I always keep thinking it's miners, not miners. Like, they are people who pull ore out of the ground, not like children given pickaxes and explosives. Yeah. I mean, they're probably about the same height. Eh. Even the smallest dwarf holds are populated with a fair number of miners. As an underground dwelling race, dwarfs always need experts at delving into bedrock, and this, coupled with the race's insatiable lust for gold, ensures that all mountain abodes are riddled with any number of deep shafts dug down in search of precious metals and gems. With their short but powerful build, dwarfs are ideally suited to mining, their strength and endurance allowing them to tirelessly wield pick, hammer, and shovel. While newfangled drilling machines and steam-powered wonder tools are now being put to use by progressive-minded clans, they will never replace the need for skilled and experienced dwarf miners. When dwarfs march to war, many mining clans form regiments to join the battle. As a point of pride, they do not bear axes, but instead wield the same heavy two-handed mining picks and mattocks they use to laboriously carve out tunnels. As it turns out, these well-balanced and sturdily made tools work equally well, whether digging into bedrock or hacking apart goblins. Because tunneling in the deeps is dangerous work, miners constantly wear heavy armor and helmets. Down the ages, this mail has served to protect them against rockfall and cave-ins, as well as turning aside such attacks as elf arrows or rusty skaven blades. Miners have a wide knowledge of subterranean tunnels, and, if there is not already an easily accessible underground route to an enemy's vulnerable flank or rear, the miners will make one. Few enemies react calmly to the trudge of heavy boots behind them, and many a desperate battle has been won by miners arriving in the nick of time from an unexpected quarter, led by a prospector, the most veteran member of the crew. Miners can wreak havoc on a foe's battle plans. The longer and more established a dwarf mine is, the more likely it is to be augmented with mechanical contrivances. Great steam engines draw in fresh air, or haul chains to tow wagon loads of rock out of the depths. Some miners even take to war with a few of their gadgets, such as blasting charges, or a steam drill to aid in under-tunneling the enemy battle lines quickly. While the most conservative dwarfs? They're grumbling dwarfs. They're dwarfs. The dwarfs still grumble about these newer generations, stoutly wielding a pick to carve through a foe and winning the battle go a long way to aiding acceptance. And this will be for Ironbrow himself. So yeah, this place on my map that's already been revealed, like way up here, I think is where he's actually from, but that's where like every single dwarf on the campaign starts, so they decided to move this guy to just anywhere else, so there would be some variety. But, so if we do this, which is, basically just expand your empire a bit, we get the opportunity to just, like, retake control of our settlement up north. So far separated from the rest of my subjects, your position is uniquely vulnerable. So too am I. Left in Carrick Azul, without the aid of my greatest rune lord. As we stand defiant against the threat of the vile greenskins and the repulsive Skaven scourge, it's clear that our strength must be combined if we are to withstand their advances, and ensure the great hold of Carrick Azel does not fall. Sweet.
Tried and tested. Arcane wisdom. Make them pay.
Yeah, and this is a wonderful and new thing that has been added. It will tell you what the auto-resolve outcome will be without you having to do it. And if you are going to lose any units, it will highlight them in red. So let's say it is a decisive victory with low casualties, but if for some stupid reason one of those casualties was going to be my catapult, which I cannot replace easily at this stage in the campaign, I would just play it by hand and make sure I don't lose my catapult. This is amazing. Because, frankly, the auto-resolve thing is just... It's supposed to be a time saver that lets you just skip over battles and load screens for stuff that you already know the result to. Like, it's not supposed to be a gamble, really. It's supposed to be a time-saving feature. That doesn't save anybody any time if you lose important units in a piddly little fight. We're going to play this, though, because that's what the game's about, and we're still just getting into this. Same setup, explosive ammo, and make these guys our dedicated anti-large. Oh, wait a second. Huh. Okay, well the Wolf Riders do count as large targets, so I am going to keep it that way. But yeah, that was definitely a clutch move to put that on these guys against the giant spider. But since there just isn't that many large targets in this army, it's just kind of less relevant overall. Okay, I think we want to fight these guys on a plane, more or less. We could be super sneaky with our miners. They have Vanguard deployment, so they can deploy outside of the regular zone. I think the idea being that they literally, like, tunneled there before the battle, which is just hilarious. However, since nobody else in the army can do that, if you set a bunch of guys over here, like, the whole enemy army will just beeline for them, kick the shit out of them before your stumpy little guys can catch up. So, how do we want to do this? Yeah, I'm thinking we just go blasting charges to the front. And then we'll stack these guys up in the back somewhere, so that they can react to wherever the cavalry comes in. And these two guys, there's practically nothing that can threaten them. I'll change the order, because I think I want that guy to use his Rune of Wrath and Ruin on whatever kind of bunches up around here. think those cavalry might get to us first, so we're going to rotate these guys around over to there. Okay, well, let's see how these guys go. So that's the Runerath and Rowan. Oh, that affects an area. Well, I should have done that before they charged in, then. Okay, so that's those guys done for. You guys are still going, you guys are still shooting. You guys can start moving out to flank. Actually, yeah, if you guys can shoot at the wolves, that would be great, because those ones outright shattered. You guys can hunt down missile units because you have shields. Yeah, everybody exploding. They just popped off their overall massive buff. Okay. Let's, drop it on yourself. It was a little bit effective. God, you guys just got ripped apart by those archers. I mean, not that ripped apart, but considering those are, like, some of the weakest archers available, they did a decent amount of HP damage to these guys. Well, they only took 2 casualties, because that is how dwarfs do. And yeah, they do not have anything that's still alive. Okay, so we have a speed and damage buff that both of our guys have. I don't really know what to use that on, other than, in general, our damage-dealing units. I don't think those numbers are right. Well, we are just going to occupy this. The leaders of a dwarf throng are its lords and thanes. These are the most powerful fighters in the army, fell-handed warriors equipped with the finest arms and armor of the clan's weapon hoard. As a rule, dwarf lords and thanes are a grim sort, for they are the leaders of a dour people. Upon their broad shoulders is carried the weight of untold debt, the inherited grudges of a long-suffering and unforgiving race. It is their lot to avenge all wrongdoing to their clan, hold, or race, not just in the present, but also for all time. Failure to redress an injury from antiquity is particularly galling, an act of disrespect to the much-revered ancestors. Lords and thanes are well tutored in the ways of their ancient foes, and must absorb a wealth of wisdom. Luckily, they are privy to the council of clan elders, as well as venerable runesmiths and engineers. This sagacity is vital, for by the time their beards have grown long enough to lead, dwarf lords and thanes must master tactics and maneuvers, learning to wield the armored might of their throng, as well as they wield an axe and shield. For a thane to progress to become a lord, he must bear royal blood. If a king dies, a lord may rise in succession, or a new kingship may be claimed if the clan retakes an old hold or establishes a new one. All leaders swear oaths of loyalty to a major dwarf stronghold, which in turn is sworn to the High King of Karaz-a-Karak. The High King nominally commands all kings, but in practice this is much more a matter of cooperation than of strict abeyance, as dwarfs are proud individuals who rile at the idea of blind obedience. All dwarfs take great pride in their possessions, but none more so than the ruling class. Depending upon wealth or clan, a dwarf lord or thane might be equipped with runic weapons and armor. It is an honor for a dwarf to bear such relics of war, for each item is passed down from their forefathers, an ancient legacy in its own right. Covered in runes and bristling with arcane might, each of the hold's relics has a long history of great deeds and feats of battle. While dwarfs are notably an infantry force, there are a few exceptions among their leaders. Some lords are carried into battle by shield-bearers, stout warriors who heft a shield to serve their liege as a fighting platform. This was common amongst dwarfs of the southern holds and has been continued elsewhere, notably by High King Elric Ranulfson of Carrick-Herne. Yes, you are a cat, buddy, it's true. And no, I will not be carrying you everywhere. Although I suppose I will carry you right now. Oof. You are just a fluffy boy being carried around. Mm-hmm. You do not have a beard, but you do have whiskers. Yes, you do. In other clans, especially northern ones, the lords and thanes prefer to fight atop oath stones, rocks upon which runes are struck, listing out the clan's honor, or perhaps the lord's lineage or deeds. The stone is a symbol of their homeland, a piece of their stronghold made manifest. So yeah, as opposed to cavalry, they just have more guys on foot carrying big-ass rocks. Not very mobile at all. But as you can see, like I had these guys who don't have shields, running around with their asses hanging out, getting shot in the back, and they lost 2 guys and like a quarter of their hit points. The cat just spectacularly failed to jump onto the chair. You okay, buddy? Yeah, you didn't hit the floor or nothing, but you looked very embarrassed. Don't you paw at me in that tone of voice. I know you're embarrassed, but you're going to have to learn to deal with it. You missed. Okay. I mean, yeah, against the AI, Rune of Wrath and Ruin has gotta be the way to go. Let's see if we can just get more stuff. And we're gonna start to pump that up.
Ironbrow.
Yeah, growth isn't a bad idea. We don't really have anything else we can do here. Yeah, mount our hacknos. Zoom! Well, again, they just want me to expand? Strange new lands teem with unfamiliar foes, yet Thoric remains undaunted. Rushing to judgment in a fit of panic is purview of the inexperienced fool. Instead, the Rune Lord will assess the threat firsthand. When the dangers of this world prove themselves deadly enough to warrant Thoric's intervention, only then will he finally don his mighty rune armor of war and be ready to stand against them. His rune armor. What, do you have rune armor of gardening as well? Rune armor of popping out to grab some milk. Okay. Story time. Oh, God, it's written with an accent. Here goes. Now you... Okay. Now you young'uns might be thinking that nowt's as good as it used to be, grumbled Durgrim Redmane, eyeing the gathered beardlings. And there's summat in that, but it's not all bad. Take this here tavern, he continued, including the whole of the smoky room with a wave of his hand. Couple of 100 years ago, this was all rock. His drunken audience admired the bar anew with bleary eyes. And that's not all. There are even a few folk, like myself, who try to follow the old ways. Not many, but enough to give you young'uns all hope. Take old Ironbrow, for instance. You've all heard of him, haven't you? Durgrim glanced over the rim of his ale mug at the attentive dwarfs, but didn't bother waiting for a reply. Thoric's a dwarf of the old times. Carrick Asgul's where he lives, and where he's master of the armories. Lucky lot to have him, too. He's got one of those anvils of doom that were made by the Kurgaz, and he knows more of its secrets than most of those that have 'em. He's also not afraid to use the power in it, Not like some so-called rune lords I could mention. Anyway, like I was saying, he's a proper old-fashioned dwarf, with little time for them modern ideas on how to forge weapons and armor. Nor does he care what runes are fashionable this century or that. If it was good enough for our ancestors in the War of Vengeance, it's good enough for Thoric Ironbrow. I've heard him say as much himself, and I felt right proud to hear it. Now I can see that some of you are thinking, what about progress? Well, that's all nonsense. Anyone can tell you that's just muddle-headed elf thinking. After all, we're doing worse, not better. And what we really need is a return to the good old days, not some newfangled replacement for things that weren't broke. Thoric Ironbrow is a worthy role model for any of you that fancy yourselves as runesmiths. You could do a lot worse than try to impress him with your skill and understanding of the old ways, though it'll be right hard. He demands the highest standards and expects nothing less than your total commitment. Can't afford to mess with the power of an Anvil of Doom if you're all half-hearted. Durgrim paused, a faraway look in his eyes. When they were made, all the anvils could use the rune they're named for, but now that I reckon it's just Thoric's that can do that. Mainly, that's just down to old Ironbrow himself. He knows more about the runes than any other dwarf alive, and that's just because he spent his whole life reading the ancient texts and talking to the oldest and wisest rune lords. Durgrim eyed his audience carefully, and paying attention to his elders.
Arcane wisdom.
Yes, we know. You're old.
Rune Lord.
Oh, would you look at that? They have themselves an army there. It's recruiting. Isn't that something?
If you want something done right,
Go on. Oh, just more blasting charges. It's 5 armor. It's the melee defense where they fall down. Their weapon strength isn't all that high either. How fast are they? 28 versus 28? Gosh. Oh yeah, when I fire up another army, I'm going to want some of these guys in it anyway, so that's what we'll do with them.
almost reminds me of old. Send out the Rangers.
I think that's about all we can do there. Oh yeah, take a look at this. Okay, so we have some possibility to get Slayers in our Regiment of Renown pool. If we slip, we get a charge bonus, buff, like a small one, penalty to research rate and public order, as well as diplomacy. But we can start to recruit more Slayers. And yeah, and that basically bumps it up. More, and then that is exactly the opposite.
Tried and tested.
Did we get ourselves any Slayers? We did not.
Vengeance for the 8 peaks.
So 11 plus the 5. They've got an actual leader this time.
Rooney's will.
We basically just have even more explosives.
Craze of blood.
Any slayers? No slayers.
Ready? Bring 'em.
Okay, so spider hatchlings aren't much of anything. Okay, so they have no large targets. So the bonus versus large does not affect this at all. Yeah, so for this one, we are going to go super tight. Those guys will be a minor reserve, used to hopefully put the beat on this guy, since he's got the most armor out of anything they have. So we're going to move that onto one of our flank pieces. Or actually, no, we'll move that onto our more injured anchor piece. Yeah, and this will be standard dwarfing that we will be doing. We just armor up, sit ourselves into a box, basically, blast away at them with artillery and ranged units, and explode them on occasion. Yeah, it's a big, open, empty field. Okay, all of these guys can go into defensive stance so that they can keep chucking their blasting charges, even even in melee. These guys can be there. This can be here. You guys can be up to potentially push on ranged units. heck are you guys going? Oh yeah, I keep forgetting you guys would just get shot to shit.
Quick about it. Race fast. Go. Move to attack. Attack! Aye! Make way!
Two, one, yep.
Minus!
Oh, you got one of Ratharoon as well. Bip. Shit.
To the High King! Attack the ox! Will do! Dwarf warriors! Attack! Forest Ironbrow! It is a reckoning! This is a reckoning!
He's almost getting his ass kicked by that big guy. Okay. Yeah, I kind of forgot about you. Do you guys want to throw your friggin' charges? Maybe we don't want these guys on guard mode. Yeah, because that didn't work out so good. There they all go. Any of those explosive little balls gonna come flying in? Any moment now. Oh, Pip, 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 Pip. No, nothing. Okay. Could have been handled a bit better. We totally forgot about our axe guys there. He did. I wasn't really sure what to expect from a duel out of him, but that wasn't bad. He did basically take that guy on with support and won, and it's not like I've buffed him up at all, other than that one weapon that he had. Yeah, if I don't need the anti-large... Well, I mean, even if I do need the anti-large, I think that is where I want to put that, as on the edges of the formation. Give them charge, defense, and anti-large. Because, yeah, the guys were right on the very edge. But I just got hammered.
This'll do for starters.
Another weapon gained. And we took over an area.
Ironbrow.
So you can do construction cost, recruitment cost, growth, tax rate, untainted in public order. Let's go for growth. Can demolish this building because we don't need it anymore. And we are definitely going to build the next level of gold mine.
Home bending.
And I would say, yeah, if we need to catch up to somebody, we will be able to do so now. We don't have any buildings that produce oath gold just yet. And yeah, that was just so good. It's not that powerful, but the AI always sets you up with clumsy units to use it on. And you don't even need full-on clumps. Just a unit that's not too spread out works sufficiently. The old ways are best. Thoric Ironbrow is a rune lord of the old school. Constant warfare has seen much of the art of the runes lost as holds have fallen to the greenskins and other enemies. Thoric, however, is as skilled as any rune lord alive today, and many would say, as any rune lord ever. He has ruled over the weapons shops of Karak Azul for centuries, and is a living terror to his apprentices and journeymen who dread his scorn almost as much as they admire his skill and wisdom. Even the sons of kings dare not enter the workshops without Thoric's approval, and many a young would-be runesmith has found himself back working in the mines for not meeting Thoric's exacting traditional standards. It is only fitting, therefore, that Thoric is the keeper of Karak Azul's Anvil of Doom. Almost alone among contemporary rune lords, Thoric has an understanding of their deeper mysteries. Whilst he has a complete respect for the power of the anvil, he does not fear it. For him it is a tool on which he can shape and fashion magic, like a normal smith would shape iron, gold, and gromril. Although Thoric has no lack of tasks to perform in the Karak Azul workshops, he is prepared to venture forth and take his place on the battlefield. In recent years, dwarf expeditions have been very successful in recovering ancient treasures from lost and fallen holds. Each such discovery helps keep the precious knowledge of the ancestors alive, and that in turn helps ensure that no more holds fall. Indeed, it is Thoric's belief that combined with the endeavors of the High King, Thorgrim Grudgebearer, and other like-minded kings, such as Alric Ranulfsson, it may yet be possible to retake some of what has been lost. So this guy's basically Indiana Jones, yeah? Like he's just traipsing up and down, swinging his pickaxe, and wearing his hat, which in this case has slightly larger horns than Indy's, and just looking at stuff and going, "It belongs in a museum! Like me!"
If you want something done right,
I probably want that for the Lord Recruit rank. And the local recruitment capacity. Slayers, I don't think we'll need as much. I don't even really know what I would do with helicopters. And they spread public order. Yeah, so none of these guys gives growth, which kind of sucks. I think, actually, I think that's tier 3 to get longbeards. That costs 5,000 though? How about no? How about I just get one of these and hold on to it for like 3 turns? Get my money back.
iron will.
Okay, so that is the last settlement of theirs.
castle. All ways are best. Agreed. I'll cast the runes.
Uh-huh.
No. Hey, strip. Ready.
Why do I get the feeling there's a whole army of rat people there?
Trial tested. Raise the banners.
Hmm. Do we want even more blasting charges? That is always the question. Those guys aren't going to be tough enough to go YOLOing off like these guys did. Oh, this has a resource. What could I get from this resource? Some income. I don't really have anyone to trade with at the moment, though, do I? Now there's a guy to get. That thing still costs 5,000 to get a hold of, though. I think we just go ahead and get that guy. For the construction cost. Yes, more reading. Runelords are the greatest of runesmiths. A runelord candidate may only be promoted with the death of an existing runelord, so this position is highly coveted and contested. Among the dwarfs, runelords are equal to kings, and so they move through dwarf society as some of its most esteemed members. A few runelords withdraw from the world, sequestering themselves away to learn the deeper secrets of the master runes, and perhaps create a few of their own, further diminishing their numbers as their names become legend. These elder masters do superlative work, and are accorded the sort of reverence normally reserved for the ancestor gods. When a runelord judges the time is right, he chooses a young relative to be his apprentice, and reticently teaches him, for an apprentice has to prove his worthiness to wring out even the most basic steps of the craft from his master. Many powerful runes have been lost over time simply because a runelord could find no one he considered worthy enough to gain his innermost knowledge. Luckily, unless slain in battle, runelords tend to live for a very long time, although they grow progressively more obstinate as they age. Currently, the most prolific of still working runelords is Thoric Ironbrow of Carrick Azul, but the oldest living runesmith is Crag the Grim, master runelord of Karaz Akarak. Despite being a living link to a bygone era, Crag has grown so stubborn as to be unbearable. In times of great need, the most powerful rune lords will bring out an Anvil of Doom to battle. The Anvils of Doom are the most ancient heirlooms of the entire dwarf race. They are the very anvils upon which the rune weapons of legend were forged, and were perhaps the very creations of the great forefather Grungni. The anvils are specially made to attract and hold the winds of magic, arcane powers which can be captured and subsequently unleashed by a rune lord. Separate runes struck in the right order can call upon different ancestor gods: Valea for loyalty, Grungni to boost the power of arms and armor, and Grimnir to unlock the energies of fury.
Lord of Clan Morgrim,
Nice hat, buddy.
heading out. Vengeful Rune Lord.
But now that should be a little bit cheaper. Yeah. Let's go.
My lord, a rival power desires a change in your mutual relations.
I'm not going to pay you for that. They want a non-aggression pact, so that we will not attack each other. But I am not going to pay them for that privilege. Don't attack me, and I won't beat you with an Anvil of Doom.
Master of Runecraft. I have the forge fires glowing.
Yeah, we can search those runes. Thought so. Oh shit, it's Quick Headtaker. It's their legendary lord. That will not be an easy fight.
Are ready. Armour and anvil.
I don't have to do it that way.
March.
See, normally I would end up pissing those guys off by walking over their territory with an army. But I am the Dwarfs, so instead,
Go on.
I use the underway.
I'd rather eat a squeak.
Yeah, because I don't think these guys are going to have the capacity to really threaten me in any meaningful way.
Armed and ready. Rune Lord. Blood Bracat craves of blood.
That's the one we want to get more growth. That one also gets us more growth. Yeah.
Time for Rocco. Strike like snake.
9 turns to get up to there.
But his will binds me to you.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be able to do anything with you.
Vengeance for the 8 peaks! Pest in clank! Rune Lord of Gyrocoptors! Holds repent!
And yeah, we have a decisive victory with low casualties. Exact same type of army, more or less, that we've already fought. We will auto-resolve this.
Fight for your old!
Still took way more casualties than I thought we would, but it's okay. Nothing, like, ridiculous happened. I think we will just occupy that. And that takes care of those greenskins. 3 turns to fully replenish those guys. I think we go Wallmaster with these guys. That's probably more immediately useful, though, because Skaven have their own form of corruption.
Run, if you want something done right.
And since there are just so many friggin' rats we'll have to get through, we're getting more blasting charges. Imagine that.
My anger burns bright.
I think we can just sit on a low public approval there for a couple of turns.
Tried and tested.
Yeah, that place does not need to be taxed. We are not going to be making any money off of it.
Arad?
What can you do to enemy armies? Hinder replenishment. That is not useful. Can damage their walls.
Rune of Swift Stride! Move!
What building is giving us oak gold?
Right.
Gold mine. Okay, that tracks. A close ally of ours, an influential Dowie, sitting on several guild councils, has shamed his family name with a craven act. Should by all accounts take the Slayer oath and go into exile and lose his influence. Well, since I think I can force confederation with those guys anyway, and that's a flat-out negative, I might as well take the diplomatic hit. For so long as Thorok has waded through the dense jungles of Lustria, crushing Iraqi skulls with every swing of his mighty hammer clad Brakak, that the powerful runes embedded within it have slowly begun to fade, their magic dwindling so far from the forages of Karak Azul. He must scour the ancient ruins hidden deep amidst the wilderness and gather the necessary materials to build an almighty smithy upon which to strike the new runes. As he wandered back to the tavern's bar, Redmane's eye fell upon a pile of shovels and picks carefully piled up at the end of the counter. "Some of you young'uns work down in the mines?" he asked, answered with a few cautious nods from the young dwarfs who were slouched drunkenly at the main trestle. "Good," he boomed, a wide grin splitting his face. "Mining, that's a proper dwarf job. None of this messing about with Grungni knows what. Just good, honest stone and metal. That's a miner's work. Still, the mines aren't what they used to be," he continued, followed by the sound of the other dwarfs' heads thudding to the table. "There was a time when you couldn't dig more than a few inches without finding a nugget of gold or a seam of iron ore. Not like the mountains these days. They've swallowed it all up, so you have to grub for weeks just to find a bit of dull copper. And no one these days knows the tunnels like the old mine masters used to. Could go anywhere for a month without setting foot in daylight, as it should be. A few of the old-timers, proper miners to my mind, know the secret ins and outs of the caverns, the roundabouts. But that was a time when you could ask a miner in Zulfbar about the digs in Carrick Zorn, and he could draw you a map from memory. Still, you lads know how to swing a pick, I trust. Whether it's for a piece of gold or a damn elf's head. Nice. So many freaking rats.
Ironbrow. Vengeful Rune Lord.
Yeah, you're gonna have to start heading north, buddy.
Rune Ricky.
Start getting yourself some, blasting charges. Blasting charges.
Always our best. I'm listening.
Oh, balls.
Aye.
Phew, 34%. I don't think so. You can just join up with him.
An accord bound by runic law. Runi's will.
Okay, we will fire up one more turn. Karazankor, the dawn of a new age. It was a strange quirk of fate that bonded the race of dwarfs more closely to that of men. A trading convoy that included the High King Kurgan Ironbeard was ambushed on its way from Karaz-Karak to the Grey Mountains. The orc army that attacked them was immense, and although the dwarfs slew their foes until greenskins lay in piled heaps, they could not prevent the orcs from capturing High King Kurgan. Luckily for the beleaguered dwarfs, this territory was the domain of the Unbarogans, a fierce and warlike tribe of men who fought relentlessly to clear their lands of greenskins. Led by Sigmar, the chieftain's son, the Unbarogans fell upon the orc army with fury. By annihilating their foe, the tribesmen freed the dwarf High King, an act that instantly put the dwarfs deep in debt to their newfound allies. And it is a point of pride to dwarfs that they never forget a debt. As a token of the bond of friendship, the dwarfs gifted Sigmar with the mighty runic warhammer Gal Maraz, which meant skull splitter in the harsh language of the dwarfs. Together the dwarfs and the warriors of Sigmar's tribe began a long campaign that drove the greenskins from the lands in droves and culminated in the mighty Battle of Blackfire Pass. A new age of prosperity had begun. Many dwarfs moved into the newly forming empire, and trade between the lowlands and the mountains flourished. Although their numbers had lessened, there were still greenskins, beastmen, and monsters, and men needed weapons to fight them. Even better, the humans would pay good gold for every sword the dwarfs forged. With the western land stabilizing and Blackfire Pass now closed to enemies, the dwarfs attempted to re-establish a grip on the World's Edge Mountains. Throng after throng marched forth from the great holds. Tenaciously, they cleared orc encampments off the mountainsides, scoured tunnels of night goblins, exterminated skaven dens, and drove monsters out of bone-strewn lairs. But the toll was high, as every step, cavern, tunnel, and mountain pass was paid for with dwarf blood. Yet the dwarfs would never rest, never let an axe blade grow dull, while there was yet a grudge unstruck from the great book of grudges, or while an ancestor's tomb still lay despoiled and dishonored.
Armour and anvil.
Secret hearts.
Master of
Oh, it's gonna take you so friggin' long to get up there.
setting off.
In shadow. Mighty warrior champion.
Yeah, we don't want to put that there. Not really trading with anyone.
Dungron.
In shadow.
I just don't know if we could take their armies while we're raiding them.
Missions.
Moving out. On our way. Quick about it. Seeking knowledge.
You bastard.
Go.
I was gonna try to set up an ambush, but we apparently did all of our friggin' movement wrong.
Dwarfs never tire.
So just run away, get some replenishment.
Lord of Clan Morgan.
Okay, save it up. And call it good for now. Okay, peace out.